They were talking about yesterday. Nick Petit-Frere taking over the spot at right tackle. What have you seen from him over the last couple of years in his development and him kind of solidifying that spot on the offensive line for you guys?
Well, Nick Petit has been like tremendous like this year. Like last year, like he was getting like a couple like reps and stuff, of course, especially like during the Northwestern game for me. And that Northwestern game for me, it showed me and all the other offensive linemen like, all right, he will be ready to play. Like he's not no slacker. Like he wants to work. Like that's what like a nation's going to see out of Nick Petit's going to like he's going to work and he's going to protect Justin like as well as anybody. Shoot, because he's one. I got a feeling that after he gets done here, he will be one of the best tackles like in his class.
We don't get to see you guys up close anymore, obviously. But they said he's 315 pounds now. Does he look bigger in person now?
He looks a lot bigger, a lot bigger than like 295. Like this year, he been really focused on like bringing his weight up and also like making sure he does the right technique that coach that wants us to do as well. Like with him adding that weight on makes him a lot more stronger in the run game and a lot more powerful in the pass game as well.
Thanks.
All right, we'll go next to Stephen Means from Cleveland.com with Patrick Murphy on deck. Stephen.
I know you've had some injury problems in the past, but just having, I know you would probably rather have started the season normally when it was supposed to start, but given that you had a little bit of extra time this off season to maybe, recover from whatever you may have been struggling last season, how has that helped you coming into this season? How much better do you just feel?
It helped me out a lot, but at the same time, I was ready in like August. I was like everybody was ready too. Like yeah, my injuries was like kind of nagging me like throughout the whole season last year, but of course like everybody saw it last year. Like towards the end of the season, I slowly got better, but it wasn't there that I wanted myself to be at, or my teammates wanted myself because last year everybody knew that I wasn't the best last year at all because coming from my injury and trying to be and just try to come back for the season just to help out my teammates. That was like one of the big things for me is to help out my teammates more than anything. And with my injury, it's just injuries, but you gotta fight through it.
All righty, we'll go next to Patrick Murphy from 247 Sports with Tony Gerdeman on deck. Patrick.
Thayer, you mentioned not thinking you played at your best last year. How much of that is motivating you to play at that best this year?
It's like no words at all. Like after watching my last year's film with all the games and stuff, like I knew I wasn't like 100%. I knew I wasn't powerful in my run game. I knew I wasn't like as fluent I am right now in my past sets. Like that motivate me so much that I just want to like go out there and compete and dominate like whoever's in front of me right now. Like yeah, I'm gonna have fun doing it. We all gonna have fun doing it, but also at the same time, it's like it's business for me.
We've heard about you as a leader. Can you give an example or two about how you've become a bigger leader this offseason and going into the regular season?
Technically, like this year, I have been like a leader, but I know for sure, like last year, I was a leader as like coming out from my injuries from like the past season and actually fighting through it and like fighting through adversity because everybody goes through adversity, but I feel like I had one of the biggest adversities that on the team, because dealing with a major injury throughout the season, it just pushed me a lot more to actually show like the younger classmen, like you're gonna be hurt, but also at the same time you gotta push through it because you gotta do it for your teammates.
Thanks, Thayer.
All righty, next up is Tony Gerdeman from Buckeye Scoop with Bill Rabinowitz on deck. Tony.
Hey, Thayer, I'm not sure you've gone against Baron Browning much. I know there was talk of him like rushing the passer on passing downs. Have you gone against him much in practice? And What's he kind of look like if you have?
I have Dominguez man a lot. Let's say he's going to be a disruption to like other offensive tackles because he gets off the ball really very quick and shoot, he's powerful as well. Like don't sleep on don't sleep on him at all because he's going to be a problem on the outside. That's all I
Thank you.
got.
All right, next up, Bill Rabinowitz from the Columbus Dispatch with Austin Ward on deck. Bill.
Hi, Thayer. Just how affected were you last year? Like, what percentage do you think you played at, and how good do you think you can be this year?
Well, to be honest, I felt like I was about like 80 to 70%, you know, but that really didn't matter because it was more for the team than anything. Like, yeah, I could have sat out last year, like, and had somebody else go in, but that wouldn't be right for me to actually be a leader for like everybody else, you know, because if I sat out, what's that show for the other players that I mentioned before, like younger players under me? Like, if I have an injury, I might as well just sit out, you know, like that doesn't make sense to me. Like, I want to make sure that everybody sees me like yeah, this guy's tough. Like he will do anything for his teammates.
And then this year, what do you think you're going to show?
This year I'm going to be showing a lot more. Like for as like in the run game, like I'm gonna be a lot more powerful. I'm gonna be finishing and sustaining my blocks a lot more too. Because last year I wasn't sustaining my blocks because I was too cautious about my injuries. I was very too cautious, but this year I'm gonna be sustaining my blocks.
Thanks, Thayer.
All righty, next up is Austin Ward from Leonard Monroe with Nathan Baird on deck. Austin.
Hey, there beyond the actual injuries slowing you down, one thing that's Coach Stud talked about yesterday was that you couldn't train the same, you couldn't do as much heavy lifting. So this off season and this preparation, for what you want to show starting on Saturday, how different is that than what you had to deal with in 2019, and how much, how much gains you think you've made in terms of strength just to be ready for this season compared to last year?
Oh, yes, like I had an injury that prevented me to not actually like lift as hard and had an injury that made me like stop at certain drills because I couldn't actually you know, do it fully to the best of my abilities. So with this year like I can lift a lot more. I feel a lot stronger. I feel a lot more quicker than I did last year. Like I do feel like everybody is ready to see what Buckeye Nation like how I say Buckeyes is about. So I just can't wait. I'm just so anxious. I'm just so anxious to actually play.
It just feels like you feel like you have something to prove that people forgot what you could be when you were healthy.
100%, 100%. Like yes, like it's not gonna be perfect all the time, but you're gonna see a different there. You're gonna see a different offensive lineman too. Like Wyatt Davis, Josh Myers. You're gonna see and everybody else that start on the offensive line or behind us too. Like that, we are like a force to be reckoned with right now.
Thanks, man.
All righty, next up is Nathan Baird from Cleveland.com, and then we'll go to Brendan Gulick. Nathan.
Hey there. Offensive linemen talk all the time about how important it is to have sort of a cohesive unit to really kind of gel together. Obviously, you didn't have the spring and summer that you usually would have to be able to do that. So, what did you and the other offensive linemen try to do to address that and have kind of that cohesiveness coming into the season?
Well, for us, like everybody else, we met like every day during the quarantine. You know, like yeah, like we couldn't be there with each other, but just seeing each other on Zoom calls, like talking about protections and talking about how in the run game, like and just talking in general about how life is going throughout the quarantine. Like that made us a lot more closer than I think than anybody else in the whole country because we love each other. Like we'll do anything for each other. We'll go to battle for each other. Like that's one thing I do think that we have more of this year. Like, we'll go about for anybody.
Alrighty, next up we'll go to Brendan Gulick with Buckeyes Now on Sports Illustrated with Andy Anders on deck. Brendan.
Hey, Thayer, Coach Stud told us yesterday that in the offseason he was able to pull some GM reports from the NFL on a number of you guys up front to kind of figure out what their perspective was of your strengths and of your weaknesses, trying to enhance the strengths, trying to address the weaknesses. Are you willing to share with us maybe a little bit about what was on those reports about you?
Well, basically, it's just me sustaining my blocks and having the leg drive that I had my sophomore year, but 10 times more. You know, last year, everybody knew I couldn't actually, like, pull out, sustain a whole drive without something hurting, of course, but that's one of the things that kind of made me, like, go for it a lot more, because me being an offensive lineman or anybody being an offensive line who doesn't sustain blocks, it's like, all right, why are you on the offensive line then? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense. If you're going to be on the offensive line, you got to sustain your blocks and hold your blocks as long as you can, so that ball carrier or quarterback can get off the ball, like, can throw the ball off and make big runs.
How about Nebraska defensively? They lost 3 starters on the defensive line, and they have some experience coming back, but not guys that have been consistent rotational players. Just curious on, as you guys have tried to game plan for this week, what challenges does that defensive line present for you?
The challenge is for us is really not knowing who is actually about to start. You know, like, that's one of the biggest challenges that we have, because usually, like, we have like 2 or 3 games on, like, our Big Ten opponents before we actually go against them, so we can actually know, like, what we have. Like yeah, this year it sucks because of COVID, but at the same time we kind of got a feeling of what they about to be running. But the only difference is, like, who's the personnel for the defense. That's the only difference this year from all other years past.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Andy Anders from Press Pros and Dan Hope on deck. Andy.
Yeah, I obviously getting Wyatt Davis back was huge for you guys. I'm curious, how did you find out that he was opting back in, and what was your immediate reaction when that happened?
Well, with that, it was just like, I kind of felt for him. Like, he even said it. Like, it was like no communication from the Big Ten at all. Like, I can't understand where he was coming from. Like, he was like the top guard in the whole country, just get drafted, you know? And he was like, we basically talked about it. We was like, man, like, there's no communication with the Big Ten, so we might, like, I don't know what he didn't know what he was about to do for real until, like, the decision that was actually made. And I respect him for it, but I respect him a lot more, even more than I do now. You know, just to come back, just to win a national title, and just to be back with his brothers for one of the last time.
Right, but I'm also curious. How did he Did he tell you? Did you hear from someone else? What transpired when you found out he was coming back?
He basically told, like, everybody, like, I'm coming back. Like, it's really nothing. It's just, he basically just told us, like, straight up, like, all right, I'm coming back, because if we have a season, I'm coming back. If we don't, I'm gonna be doing something else.
Right. And then as a group, have you discussed, like, what the potential for this offensive line is just as a unit? I mean, obviously you have a lot of talent, a lot of, Josh is going to be a Remington candidate at center. What do you feel? What does the room feel is the ceiling?
To be honest, like, last year, everybody said, like, we was, like, one of the best offensive line groups that Ohio State has ever had. But I personally think what I have seen and what we have been doing during practice all this time, like, I do think, again, that we are going to be the best offensive line in the whole country.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ready. Next, we'll go to Dan Hope from 11 Warriors. Dan.
Hey, Thayer. I mean, you talked about the injuries from last season. Is there things that you've done in terms of preparing your body this season to try to prevent those injuries this year?
Well, I have been preparing myself ever since like beginning of the season. Like beginning of like last season, not this season, of course, but last season, like I started eating well and doing like my core work. Like my core was like the biggest thing for me because I had a weak core throughout that whole time, but I made sure that my core was strong and I made sure my feet was moving. I made sure that everything else was strong as well, so I actually sustained blocks.
Thanks, Thayer.
All righty, next up, we will go to Tim May from Leonard Monroe and the Tim May podcast. Tim. Tim's trying.
There we go. I couldn't get my screen to come up. Sorry about that, Mike. Hey, Thayer, as you get ready to start this season, you've talked about the confidence you have up front with your group. And I imagine you were finding that kind of funny, people calling that the best offensive line in the country last year when, one of the best offensive lines in the country. And you didn't feel like you were 100%. But anyway, past that, your quarterback, Justin Fields, is back. What level of confidence does that even raise for you guys up front? Having him basically expected to be one of the best, if maybe not the best, quarterback in the country.
It makes a huge difference, because he knows the offense on the back of his hand. He knows like how long to hold the ball and how long not to hold the ball. Of course, like with having a quarterback that knows everything from front of his hand to the back of his hand, it makes a huge difference for us. Because like we want the ball to get out quicker, but also at the same time, we like him we like him to actually know what he's doing as well.
And what's the sense you think that Trey Sermon and Master Teague III now bring to that running back room now that J.K. Dobbins is gone? What do you expect to be different about the running game, or do you expect anything to be different?
I don't expect anything to be different, nothing at all. Like J.K. was a great running back. I do firmly believe that Master Teague and Trey Sermon will be as good as JK. They was for us last year and years before that.
Thanks, man.
All righty, next up we'll go to Mark Snyder from Press Pros. Mark. Mark is muted. Mark, you're on mute.
Thayer, what makes you confident in the running backs? Because they're both coming off injuries, and one is new to the program, and the other one played in the third and fourth quarter last year.
Repeat that question again.
What gives you confidence in the running backs? Because they were both injured last year, and one's new to the team, and another one played late in games last year when the score was out of hand a lot of times.
The different, well, to be honest, they run very, very hard. Like Trey, he'll run hard, and plus he's very fast as well. Like having Trey and Justin and Master behind us as offensive line, it's like, all right, if we run the ball, we're gonna get a first down. If we don't run the ball, Justin can actually pass the ball to our wide receivers, and they can make plays. And if nobody's open, Justin can actually run the ball and just take off, because that's how talented we are right now on the offense. And for us, the running backs, I don't think Buckeye Nation has nothing to worry about at all. It's gonna be the same mindset that we had all the years as Buckeyes.
And our final questioner for Thayer will be Spencer Holbrook from Leonard Monroe. Spencer.
Thayer, what's it like to line up beside Harry Miller every play?
Line against Harry is very nice. He's a very smart guy. And he's also funny, but when he locks in. He's gonna make sure that he does his job right, and he makes sure that nobody else gets hurt. If he gets hurt, oh well, he be fine. He'll get up and keep going. So Harry Miller is going to be something special again.